This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one web design platform for entrepreneurs. So there's some controversy in the ARCANE world. There's a recent interview where Linke said this about Jinx.
I don't know if Silco necessarily thinks of her as his daughter.
This clip was making the rounds on Twitter, and people were getting pretty mad. The main sentiment was basically, did you even watch your own show? And just raking him across the coals for like, how could he possibly say something this stupid? Don't you remember the scene, etc. And I heard this quote, I watched the clip, and I didn't have that reaction at all. I didn't think the quote was crazy at all. I feel like I've even asked the same question in my own videos about whether Silco really loved Jinx as a daughter. And yeah, both Christian and I know about stuff like the daughter quote. But the weird thing here is just that, like, the context of Christian's statement makes a huge difference in how you understand this quote. And it's not like people getting mad saw the clip without that context. The context is in the video that went viral. So here's the context.
Interesting question. I mean, I always find it very interesting, this question of like, can a person love another person like their own child or like, actual family member, even if they're not, even if they don't have like the same family blood? I think yes. I don't know if Silco necessarily thinks of her as his daughter, but like someone that he really loves and cares about. Yes. I think we always talked about how Silco sees a lot of himself in Jinx, or also he sees in her like the version of someone from the Undercity who really succeeds, who really, is powerful and capable, independent. And I think in a way she also really inspires him. I do think he really loves Jinx in the end, which shocks him too. I think he starts to think of like, okay, you're an example of a daughter of Zon that was kind of abandoned and left behind, like he was when he was young. And so, but she's also really talented. So that's when he's like, we'll show them as like, yeah, like, here are two people. Like, I think in many ways, Jinx is the only person that he feels like she can understand him.
Okay, so he's saying a few things here. Number one, framing all of this, yes, Silco absolutely loved Jinx deeply and he cared for her, but that could happen in the context of father-daughter love, or that could happen as part of a different kind of loving relationship. What would that look like? And that's point number two. Silco's life was dominated by his political ideology and by this monster idea about how humanity worked, and a lot of his love for Jinx came from how perfectly she embodied the way he saw the world. And there's nothing wrong about that, there's nothing lacking about that. That is a very, very deep kind of love, but it is a different love from father-daughter love. Fathers don't love their daughters because of politics and philosophy, they love them because that's my daughter. An additional point to consider, point number three, Silco was abandoned as a kid apparently, I didn't know that. And what that means is that Silco was not someone who had a very good model of what parental love is. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's incapable of it, but the question is there. And all the three of those points combined is basically how I view the quote. Yes, Silco loves Jinx. Yes, he calls her his daughter, but does he know what that means? Or do his values and his lack of life experience mean that he's mistaking the type of love he has for a type of love he fundamentally doesn't understand? And this is a phenomenon that happens all the time. You imagine like the proverbial athlete dad who forces his kid to play baseball and be the sports star he wasn't good enough to be in his own life, or like the Beethoven dad who abuses the crap out of his kid trying to get him to be the next Mozart. They are not loving their son as a son. They're loving him as a piece of clay that I can bend and break and mold into a shape that's pleasing to me. And that is very much what Jinx is to Silco.
Silco thinks he made Jinx.
She is his star athlete, she is his little lump of clay, his perfect little Mozart, and he loves that, and because she is that for him, he loves her. And yes, he is also lonely, and he needs affection, and he needs someone who he can be vulnerable with, but is that a father-daughter relationship? You tell me. I don't have a daughter, I cannot answer that, but anyway, what Christian is saying is that this is a question, it's an interesting thing to ponder. And if this is what he means, then the way he's saying it is not the clearest, but still, that is what I'm hearing from his statement. Daughter carries the connotation of a specific kind of relationship, and it's unclear if Silco feels that way about Jinx. That's what I'm hearing. Yes, despite him using that word, it's like the Princess Bride thing.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Okay, so I started writing this and I figured I should check and see what people are saying online, like on websites, Squarespace, Ad Segue. Take it away, IRL Schnee. Welcome to Revolve!
Welcome to Revolve!
Bet you didn't expect that. So how many of you guys are creative people looking for a lifestyle to support your creative skill set? So, little Schnee tidbit. So I had a plan at one point to make a living as a travel influencer, to use that to support my fiction writing career. Basically, I would travel to places like this, I would write blog posts, I would make videos, I'd maybe do the whole ebook, e-course thing if I could find a way to do it in a non-scammy way. And at that time, no joke, I was looking to do that with Squarespace. This was the exact service that was going to support me traveling the world and writing. Because I could make a website that did all these things. I could write articles, I could post video content, I could host podcasts, I could sell stuff, and this was years ago. Nowadays, Squarespace can do even more. Design Intelligence uses AI to streamline the actual design aspect and make everything even more personal personalized, more suited to you. You could use their Blueprint AI, which has a ton of templates to choose from to structure your website. Squarespace Payments allows all these different payment options. Super easy to set up. And I'm talking about travel influencer stuff, but really any creative lifestyle will probably need a platform like this to act as a central hub beyond all your social media stuff. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial. When ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/schnee to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with code schnee. Okay, back to you recording voiceover in your Airbnb at midnight and trying not to bother the people in the flats next to you, schnee. Okay, anyway, back to the video. So I saw one comment on Reddit that seems similar to what I was saying, but with some additional aspects I wasn't thinking of. Rabbit Goes mentions that in addition to this Mozart phenomenon, Silco projects his own issues onto her, isolates her, and exacerbates her mental instability to keep her dependent on him, ultimately using her talents to serve his own empire. His attachment to Jinx is not rooted in unconditional parental love, but in her usefulness to his cause. The manipulation point is a really important one that certainly doesn't seem like how father-daughter love is supposed to go. But then the other point that I almost got to but didn't quite get there was unconditional love. That is a very big deal. And in this story of this character, you see how important that is, and you experience how important that is pretty much solely because of Vi. There's a reason we feel Vi's love for Jinx, especially by the end of season 2, is real family love, and why we have reservations about Silco's, at least until the Don't Cry Her Perfect scene. It's because we get the sense that if Jinx reverts to powder, Silco might not love her anymore. And you compare that to Vi.
You're never gonna give up on me, are you?
Even if she's a bit slow sometimes, even if she has moments of weakness, overall throughout all of season 1 and throughout the second 2 acts of season 2, Vi accepts and loves her sister, whether she's Powder or Jinx or whoever, doesn't matter, it's her sister, and Vi is always going to love her and try to take care of her. That is family love. And it's unclear if Silco has that. Okay, so everything we talked about in this video, I don't know if this is what Christian Link actually meant, or, maybe he did have a brain fart and said something totally bizarre and inaccurate about the show that he's devoted like the last 10 years of his life to, but either way, the statement itself is not a crazy thing to say, because there are very sensible ideas that should jump out to anyone who's really paying attention to the context. He could mean anything we talked about in this video, or he could mean something totally different. And I know that's really frustrating to a lot of people, because if he did have a brain fart, that's really hurtful to people who are fans of these characters, and people who care deeply about this father-daughter relationship, and they really want to know whether to be hurt or not, and it sucks to be in that position of just not knowing. But the reality is you cannot know. When people say ambiguous things, you can't know what they mean unless you talk to them about it and you see what they mean, and even then you might not even know. So that's just the reality. So if you are someone who's upset about this, it's not my intention to deny you that feeling. I would just ask you to be charitable enough to consider reasonable possibilities and acknowledge that it is an unclear statement. I think it's important to have that level of respect for anyone, but also for the guy who created ARCANE. It's a little shocking to see how hungry for blood people are, especially when 4 months ago they'd all jumped to charitable interpretations of a statement like this. And I know it's just Twitter, but it seems like a lot of the vitriol is coming from people who didn't like season 2 and want to express that by making conclusions they feel are hurtful enough to function as revenge for the personal slight of season 2 not meeting their expectations. Maybe that's me not being charitable, but again, it's not about how people feel. People just need to learn how to caveat. Feel your emotions, express your skepticism, voice your disappointment about the writing, voice your frustration about what you think he's saying, but just caveat. Say, if X is what was going on, then I'm angry. We can't know 100%, but it certainly sounds like X, and I have a lot of feelings about that. Be upset, just be clear and accurate also. I know conclusiveness feels really good, but you can't have it all the time. That's just the reality. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this and hopefully provide some clarity for people who heard the quote and weren't sure how to feel, want to hear more perspectives. But okay, we will stop here. Subscribe. Victor video coming soon. I was in the middle of making that when this interview thing happened, and I am really liking how the Victor stuff is coming together. Very happy with the progress I've been able to make. So stay tuned for that. If you like the content, support the channel on Patreon. Shoutouts to new high-tier patrons Kipso, Asha Singh, Ronald Spikes, and Pib. And also welcome back Darren McGill and Niv the Fox. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, and thanks also to Squarespace for the sponsorship. That is it for now. Hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for watching. You could use their blue.